Pod. Pod.
Whereabouts are you? Where are you calling from?
Manchester. Sale, just outside Manchester.
Yeah, lovely.
Moved here about a year ago. Did live in London. Well, I'm from Hull originally.
Oh yeah, my flatmate's from Hull. He's in a band called Spectrals.
Called who, sorry?
Really good band. He was in a band called Spectrals. Do you remember them?
Oh, right. Not sure. What's
They
his...
toured with girls and stuff, and toured with cults.
Cool.
They're really good.
How old is he?
He's 30.
Oh, what's his name?
Louis Jones.
Louis Jones. See, it's one of those places where everyone knows each other. I probably know his face.
Yeah, so he used to work for the big gallery there. He works in galleries and stuff.
Ferrens, yeah.
So now he's moved to a gallery in London and moved into the house.
Oh, cool, right.
Hull's kind of happening now, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of kicked off with City of Culture.
Yeah,
and they had
all I remember is the Adelphi, which definitely was not a fucking shithole.
I actually came to that gig, yeah.
What, the one like back in the day?
Yeah, because my mate's, he's like a friend of a family. His band was supporting you, the Applewhites. I don't know if you remember him.
Oh, that name seems familiar.
Because it was them and a band called Moa.
Moa. Yeah, Moa are fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Such an underrated band.
Yeah, I was only about 15,
so
but I remember coming to that.
It was something like there was a label that was run by, what's the fucking guitarist out of Blur? Graham Coxon.
Right.
He had a label and then he signed Moa, and through that they got their record produced by Stephen Street.
Okay.
It's a fucking gem. Really good record.
Nice.
Yeah, Hull's cool, isn't it? But man, I love Manchester as well. I kind of miss like being. I miss sort of just traveling around England.
Yeah.
Like weird little places like Hull.
Yeah, I mean, Adelphi is one of those kind of cool places where a lot of good bands play, to be fair.
Yeah,
and it's still going somehow. And it's
we played there like about 5 years ago. Again.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of not as glamorous on the sort of, seeing it from the other side. Do you know what I mean? It's good. It's fine when it's kind of on the way up somewhere, but when it's kind of on the way back down, it loses all its like grotty excitement and appeal or whatever. But it's kind of like a charming shithole.
Yeah,
definitely.
So how's lockdown for a songwriter? How's it treating you?
Do you know what? It's been absolutely brilliant for me. I sort of feel I feel like I've always been saying that I was going to get much better at production and start doing more kind of 100% songs and do more just me and an artist, and I would do the production and do the sort of co-writing. And I thought I'm going to lock myself away for just learn how to produce really fucking well, and then I had this opportunity, so I just did it. So it's completely changed my way of working. It's been really, really fucking good, actually.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I feel like I had such a productive lockdown. Oh, and nice. It's weird. It's like, actually in London, it really feels like lockdown is over. Like all the restaurants are open and stuff, and it's like it feels like everyone's kind of moved on a little bit here, which I don't know if that's just begging for a second wave.
And I keep expecting news of a second wave because everyone says it's going to happen with the way things are going. But
I just like to be an optimist, I think, about everything.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah. But I was also the person saying, fucking Brexit will never happen, please, to everyone. I just would reassure. I said, Trump will never be elected. There isn't a fucking chance. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So, but then at least I believed that there was going to be good news up until it wasn't good news. So maybe in some way it's like better to be like that anyway. Maybe.
I spoke to a few people in bands who said they struggled to be creative in lockdown. So you've found it the other way, have you?
Well, yeah. I think because of, it's different. If you're in a band, it's such a social thing anyway, and you like rely on other people to. I mean, my whole thing was to try and become less reliant on producers and on other songwriters, and just to try and learned to do it, and I'm still doing like the stuff where I just show up and I just like write the top line, like write the singing and the lyrics and stuff, and someone else produce. I'm still doing that now, but now I've also got this whole other bit of my job now, which is like the production stuff, which I actually really am enjoying. And it's like, it's weird because it is a kind of, it seems like quite a self-indulgent, quite abstract job, but actually in a way it's like I feel like I have kind of invested in my business. It is sort of what's happened, and I've like, in terms of that, I've like actually really grown the business that is my kind of songwriting career or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And is that something you really want to get into, like producing records and stuff?
Yeah, I did a few things. I've done a few like things for X Factor and just like a few little silly things along the way. But yeah, I'm definitely doing a lot more. And yeah, it's even just for doing a demo. Like I want like a young kid who has some ideas but doesn't really know how to sort of put them into a song. I want them to just be able to show up and then leave with a bunch of songs that sound really good. So that's the kind of service I think I want to provide. I think with songwriting, it's kind of a service industry, and I think that's like, once I sort of started realizing that, I think, or once I sort of started accepting that properly, it kind of, I don't know, it sort of like became something else in my mind, and I could sort of work out what I did much better, because it is a little bit sort of, yeah, like abstract and hard to define, and sort of seems a bit of a odd choice of a career, I guess.
Yeah, I heard you saying like you were friends with songwriters for Weezer and different people like that. So you must have met a lot of different people in terms of production. Oh
yeah, so this guy, Johnny Coffer, his name is.
Yeah,
and he's like, I mean, I think he's like done stuff for Beyonce and did Weezer, and like he did that song High Hopes, you know, by Panic at the Disco.
Oh right, yeah, I think so. Yeah,
and he's like a really good friend. So I just called him up for like an hour a day, just begging him to tell me what plugins he puts on which things and what settings. He sent me like all his secret settings and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I think my kind of shortcut to being able to do it was because I know a lot of producers that are really good, and they're my friends, that I just like managed to call up like the best producers in the world and just ask them exactly what settings they use and what plugins and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, and kind of skipping a lot of them. Like it's bad because I probably don't really understand why I'm using certain plugins on certain things. I just know that that's what someone good decided to do.
Yeah, bit of a fast track.
Yeah, whatever. It's the same. You get the same results, so it's fine.
Yeah. If you kind of skip back to the beginning,
yes,
usually try and kick off with asking the guests like how they went from starting the band to getting a record deal. But I noticed you were in a hardcore band. Was it the same lineup, or did that change?
So I guess I like sort of moved out of my house quite young. And I went and moved in with Chuck, who was the drummer. And he has this like quite mad kind of eccentric dad who's just like just a real like rock and roll lifer. Like he goes to every time the Rolling Stones will play, he'll go and see Oasis and stuff.
Yeah.
So he was really supportive of like not just music, but just like being a fucking rock star. Honestly, he's like really, he really wanted. He like almost kind of purposefully like groomed his kid to be like a rock star, which actually ended up with like him being a little bit too good of a rock star. I think some people would argue. Right. So he would have like a practice room he had a practice room in his house, which was actually like. I think at one point it was going to be like a home cinema where he sort of stuck a drum kit in and gave up on that idea. And it was like a tiny little room. And I practiced with like, I remember having what are those jazz chorus, those Roland jazz chorus amps, which is like the trebliest fucking guitar amp. It's an amazing guitar amp. Right. Alan White from Morrissey used to play it. They're absolutely brilliant. But they're super harsh. I had one of them with my guitar in one input and my vocal mic in the other input, just like right next to my ear, which has caused me like I'm like my hearing is so fucked because of those like few years of practicing there. But we would started different bands. All the same 4 of us lived there, with like who were the Ordinary Boys. So, but we were called like a million different things, and did a million different styles of music. But mostly kind of we were like a hardcore band, or like a sort of emo, like melodic hardcore type music, which is still like a lot of, I still like a lot of that music. I think especially now with like Lil Peep and that kind of like emo-y trap stuff, I'm more and more going back and listening to the kind of more of that pop punk and emo that I used to like. I listen to a lot of hardcore still, but yeah. But then I guess I'd spent some time in Philadelphia, and there I met Wes, who was in American Nightmare, which is a hardcore band that we really liked. And he lived with one of my best friends from Philadelphia. They lived together, and he was super hardcore. Like they're like quite a heavy hardcore band, but they're really cool. And he dressed like he was into Oasis, and he dressed like in a kind of quite Britpop way, which was just like, I think a lot of hardcore bands still do dress a bit like it. That it's just a weird thing where the hardcore kids are kind of into Britpop. So I remember sitting down with him and like watching Oasis videos and stuff. And I'd honestly, as a kid, I was just into like punk and hardcore, and I'd never really thought about Oasis that much, I think. But I kind of misinterpreted his kind of slightly ironic love for like this, for Morrissey and Oasis, which I think it wasn't at the time. It wasn't so much ironic as just like, isn't it silly that I'm in a hardcore band, but I like Britpop, and it was just kind of quite funny, if more than anything else. But I kind of absorbed a bit of that, and I think kind of maybe misinterpreted it as like, oh, I'm going to be like a hardcore kid, but I'm going to play Britpop, because we were a bit maybe like more traditionally kind of good at music than maybe some of the other hardcore bands. So then we were like, all right, well, let's take our hardcore back. Let's get rid of all these songs and let's just write a set of Britpop songs. Or like, Britpop, slightly pop punk version of Britpop. And then that happened to just be the thing that we were doing that honestly instantly got people excited. So we played with Ladytron, and then we played with The Faint, which was like a band we really liked. That were like another kind of, it was like an electro-clashy sort of the end of that scene. And honestly, someone came down to the gig, thought we were really good. Then there was like a bidding war, and we were doing showcases and stuff. We actually did a showcase in London for wherever Simon Cowell worked at the time. Simon Cowell was there.
Right.
And the drummer, who was the one who was whose dad wanted him to be a rock star, was so offended by the fact that Simon Cowell was talking while we were playing our set for them, that he threw his whole hi-hat, like the whole stand and everything, threw it at Simon Cowell and then ran off, which was obviously like quite a funny thing to do. But I regret this to this day. This is one of my very few regrets. But it's fucking rude to talk while we're doing a showcase for them. So I should have been like, yeah, don't talk. But I really apologized for him, and I remember feeling quite cringed out of myself. I'd been like, I'm sorry, he kind of does this sometimes. So anyway, we played a
conversation while you're playing.
Yeah, we were playing for them, and they were talking about something like quite loudly.
Oh, really?
And he was just like, so he was totally in that was that's like why I love him. But so yeah,
get a good shot.
Yeah, he hit him like dead on, like in the chest. And yeah, so those songs that we wrote, I mean, honestly, we wrote them in a week, and they became Over the Counter Culture.
Oh, right.
And that was just, we would get a riff, and then we'd structure it really, really quickly, and then they would play it like the rest of the band. I would sit outside the practice room with a pen and paper and just write lyrics as quickly as I could, honestly, as quickly as I could write them down. Which is interesting because it's so different to how I do it now as a songwriter, where I kind of go, yeah, well, what's my motivation here? Kind of, bullshit. But I remember, especially the songs on Over the Counter Culture, it was like, we need some songs, or else it's going to be really quiet when we're on stage, so we better write some. There was no more thought in it than that, and it was just that. it was taking the thing that I'd kind of absorbed in Philadelphia, which was the hardcore meets Britpop, and just sort of misunderstanding what was good about it, which was then really, I think that's really weird, because I think a lot of the rest later like stuff with the band, I think we always struggled with, like, so we had done there was a front cover of the NME, which was like the Heroes issue, and we really wanted to have us and Morrissey, because I do, despite some of the things that he says nowadays, I still very much love the music of Morrissey. But all they had was Paul Weller, who I don't particularly like. Like, not that I don't particularly like him, but I just don't. It's nothing that's really like. I never really listened to like, I do like Style Council quite a lot, but I never really listened to the Jam, and I never really listened to like his solo stuff. So, but that's all they had left. So that was all they could offer, and I wanted to be on the front cover. So then that further kind of sent us into this place of being like in a scene that I felt like we weren't particularly comfortable being, or we didn't really want to be there. And then I think more and more we just kind of felt like we were pretending to be this, like, lad sort of the ones where they have like the haircuts that, mod haircuts and stuff. And like,
definitely, yeah. It
wasn't, and the thing is that scene is that will exist. No one can kill that scene, which is which is great for it. It's like a cool thing. It just wasn't what I'm not knocking it at all, but it wasn't what we felt. It wasn't something that we connected to particularly. And I think, rather than trying to figure out what it was that we sort of tried to lean in on it, which was, I don't know. I sort of think about that sometimes with the second record. That whether if we'd have just sort of gone, fuck it, let's do a hardcore record, what that would have done. I mean, we wouldn't have had a career, but it might have been quite interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we had the Futureheads on, who said like their second album didn't go down as well as they thought it would, and they kind of had a conflict between, do we try and crowd please or do what we want kind of thing? Was that kind of a similar juncture you came to?
I don't know. I just like. I mean, our second album did better than the first one, but I personally much prefer the first one. I think it's just a bit heavier and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, you don't know what you're doing, and no one really tells you. And it's a really unusual time with, we were super young. So it is really weird. There should be like a record label should have. You just sit down with someone who's got experience and just say, all the things you're going to have to deal with, all the like weird emotional stuff that comes with it. I feel like it's an incredibly like, it's just a fucking unusual thing to go through when you're a kid. And I mean, all of us in the Ordinary Boys have landed on our feet fantastically, but I see friends in other bands who I think have but being in a band, they kind of just put real life on hold for the years during which most people do quite a lot of important things for their life in order to be an adult. So you study, you make relationships, you have friendships and stuff, beyond these weird relationships you have with the members of your band. So I think, I think it's impossible to come out of it without being slightly fucked up. So I think I'm always quite impressed with how everyone in my band seems like quite a well-adjusted, quite normal person. Yeah.
But you're saying you would have appreciated a bit more direction maybe at the time?
No, I think, I think I would have. I think it's something that like, I hope that people are like, I try, when I work with young kids and stuff, I try and like give them a bit of a kind of like Uncle Preston thing. So I just tried to do that just to because I do, and the same with like, there's a lot of like drink and drugs around and stuff, and that sucks. And I don't know. I do think managers and again with Lil Peep, with his management, that they put him in this tour with these people that were like drug dealers and stuff. And then I don't know if you've seen that documentary about him.
Yeah, I recently watched it. Yeah, because someone talked about it on here.
He's fucking dead for 4 hours.
Yeah, that is
and they're just doing their Snapchat stories or Instagram stories or whatever with him dead in the back, and it's like, that's kind of some people's fault. It really is. Like, he shouldn't have been in that situation. Managers have a duty when it's children. Like, the older I get, the more I feel like anyone under 25 is a child. Honestly, like I didn't honestly, like, I was just saying to someone today, but I really don't think I understood anything about life and who I was until I was at least like 30 or honestly 35.
Yeah, I know what you mean, definitely, yeah.
I think, and the older you get, I look at a 25-year-old and go like, yeah, you definitely like shouldn't be smoking cigarettes yet. You're not old enough. But do you know what I mean? Like, so I think, I do think management and stuff I think they do kind of have a duty to people. Yeah.
And we had Kyle from The View, who kind of made a similar point, like when they were first blowing up, they had this thing in their head where they had to be rock and roll.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And he said once you get older, you kind of realise that, that's not the case. You don't have to do it, but...
And actually, it's so much cooler if you just don't be like that. It's actually just a shitty life.
Yeah.
I think that's why we were, instead of being rock and roll, leather jacket, like we kind of went into just like tracksuit and playing football instead. And which was like probably quite weird. Looking back, it was maybe quite weird. And then we like started wearing suits and stuff, I guess. So I think I don't know, I think I've always quite liked to just like alienate my whole fan base at every opportunity I get for some reason. But I think for us, it was like, I felt so uncomfortable with that. I felt uncomfortable with the like mod rock, like scooter rally type thing.
Yeah.
So I became something else. And then I really don't like the kind of rock and roll lifestyle. Like you have to like do loads of cocaine and shit and just like ruin your life, because you really don't. So I really went, I just made like a pop record and went on Big Brother. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I think as soon as I feel like I'm becoming something that I'm not comfortable with, then I become something completely different, like instantly. For instance, when I was on Big Brother, then I became like a Heat magazine celebrity, and I didn't like that at all. I just moved to Philadelphia for 3 years.
Yeah.
I honestly just packed a backpack and just bought a one-way ticket. So, yeah, I don't know. I would still, I think I'm still like that. I think if there's something I don't like about my life, like I'm a very kind of like I really throw myself into stuff, and then I throw myself massively the other way if I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I was just saying, I was talking to someone today who's been thinking about changing career for like a long time, and she's like hesitating about, but I think you just have to like just launch yourself full into the new thing that you want to do, and if you don't like it, just fucking drop it. It's fine. Like I think in life in general, like no one really gives a fuck about you and your life.
Yeah.
Like you think everyone, just besides maybe looking at your Instagram story and thinking like, oh my God, he looks quite fat in that shirt or whatever, some tiny thing. No one really gives a fuck about anyone except for themselves. And you really just have to do whatever makes you happy today in life.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so important. I don't think I think the less you can give a fuck about anything, and especially like you know, what other people think is like absolutely not, and none of your concern. It doesn't even, and beyond that, I think people don't really think that much about other people. People aren't just sitting around like making a little pie chart of your life and things that they approve or disapprove of. Everyone is so caught up in their own shit that there's no reason not to just do whatever makes you happy today.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something.
That's a little bit Jerry Springer's final thought. But, I've just been thinking it a lot lately.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, mate. Because like, I guess when I was in Hull, I would be like quite scared of, not scared, but, you know, anxious about pissing people off like not going along with their plans. But like moving away to London and stuff, kind of just realised, like you said, no one really gives a shit what you're doing. And
people like forget about you and stuff. It's like, honestly, oh yeah, there was a guy, wasn't there? Preston, do you remember? Yeah, he was a guy that used to hang around. People don't really care. And like actually, your own kind of contentedness and happiness is so important. And like, it doesn't really necessarily have to exist outside the confines of your mind most of the time, because you just like, it's like when you go to bed at night, like it doesn't really matter what anyone else is doing. Yeah.
I remember, I mean, this is a bit of a tangent, but there's this guy called Damien Eccles who was put on death row for something he didn't do, and I kind of got obsessed with him for a bit and read his book. And he basically came out of it and said his biggest takeaway from it all was that time is like your most precious commodity. Yeah. And I kind of try and live by that now. Like, even if you're going to annoy people by not doing something, there's no point like doing something you're not interested in. Yeah, there was that. And people will appreciate that at the end anyway, that you're being genuine.
Yeah, 100%. There's that great, I think it was a Courtney Barnett advert, which didn't have anything about her, but it just said in massive letters. I saw it in Brooklyn like last year, and it just says, "No one cares if you don't go to the party."
Yeah, that's spot on.
Like, that is fucking brilliant. I like almost want to have that tattoo. That's actually quite a good tattoo. If I do actually really like her. She's pretty good. Maybe I'll get that tattoo. So I'm actually purposely like haven't watched any reality TV in about 15 years. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Were you quite into it before you went into Big Brother?
I was really. I used to go on the Big Brother's Big Mouth. Oh yeah. I think they just thought that was quite weird that I was so into it, but I just found it really fascinating. No, I still kind of think it is. It kind of, I think back then the roles weren't so defined. So now people go in there and they're following a kind of trodden path with like what the character they want and what they want out of it, and they kind of have a sense of what is waiting for them, afterwards. But when I went in and before that, it all was completely unknown, and it really was like watching. Anything could happen, and no one. Think about Pete Burns on there and stuff. It's like it was completely unpredictable. Whereas now it almost feels like it's, if there's like something's, sort of programmed by a computer to respond a certain way to, what do you call that? Like
algorithm.
Yeah, like an algorithm to it of how the people are going to react, and they find their personality traits and they try and purposefully do something that's just about on the boundary of decency and all. So I kind of think it can only be real for a very limited amount of time, and I think that was a really interesting time for reality TV was around sort of early 2000s. And now I just think it's now just trash.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I definitely do still watch them with my girlfriend, to be fair, but
yeah, well, I do. I have Hulu, and I do quite like. I like My £600 Life, and I like the one My 90 Day Fiance is really good as well. Have you ever watched that?
Yeah. Oh well.
Have you watched the one, the Big Ed with the massive net?
Yeah, we watched that. Me and my mates. We started. Well, I saw loads of like memes about him and stuff. So I started watching it on YouTube. Yeah.
Horrible guy. Horrible. Yeah.
I mean, that program's so odd.
Yeah. So mean. And she's really sweet. She's like, blown up on Instagram now.
Oh, really?
She's got a girlfriend now, and she's like just absolutely living her best life in LA or something. So it's like,
oh, that's it. Because they were proper, really, what it's like poverty she was living in, wasn't it?
Yeah, really. And he was so disgusted with it, just like really fucking horrible behavior, but amazing TV. I like Intervention a lot as well. That's kind of reality, but maybe a bit serious. But
I don't think I've seen
the stories of them are always really, you know, I had this really bad accident and ended up being hooked on Oxy. Like a couple of years ago, and it was so hard to get off that. It was fucking awful. I was shivering and vomiting, and like I just had to go cold turkey. And now I really sympathise with like addicts. And so I watched the Intervention, and you see how easy the transition from not addicted to heroin to absolutely hopelessly addicted to heroin. The transition is so easy and so relatable, and it's not something that is like completely like it could fucking happen to anyone. Honestly, it could happen to like someone's mum. It could happen to. So I do really like to watch that. And then then when you see like if you see someone who's like homeless or something, who's obviously got addiction problems, it's like completely you see it in such a different light. It's really like I just finished reading this book called Cherry by Nico Walker, I think his name is, and it's kind of I think I read a review that called it the first masterpiece about the opioid crisis.
Right.
And this guy wrote the book from prison because he had done all these bank robberies in order to pay for his massive heroin addiction, which he got because he was in the war in Afghanistan and just had a fucked up time there, and then came back and was had PTSD and became a heroin addict. But it's written in such a kind of conversational, really relatable way. It's such a great book. I really, really, really recommend.
Okay,
I can't really remember why we're talking about heroin now.
I've seen a few documentaries about, like you said, the opioid crisis. So like with you were taking the prescribed amount, but you still found it hard to come off, kind of thing.
Well, I was I was taking the prescribed amount, but then I sort of managed to like get multiple doctors, and it takes over your mind in a really weird way where you're just like you honestly just don't give a fuck about anything else.
Yeah.
And I'm really like I'm not like a druggy guy at all. In fact, I smoked weed maybe a year ago, and then I had to go and lie in my friend's bed, and I looked at my phone afterwards, and I just Googled can you die from weed? It was the last thing that I Googled, like an absolute whitey. So really, I'm really like not that guy. So I just I don't know, it just hooked me instantly.
Yeah.
Really. But I was on it for 6 months because I really fucked up my I had like a bunch of broken bones and shattered pelvis and stuff.
Yeah, what happened? Did you have a fall or something?
Yeah, I just fell out of a balcony.
Oh shit! Right.
Yeah. I was in a wheelchair for like 6 months. It was an incredibly weird time in my life.
All right.
All of these times, it's really weird looking back and think you isn't it strange how you're so adaptive to whatever situation you're in. Even if I think of like all the Big Brother shit and being famous and stuff, like that's fucking mental. But it just happens, and you're just like, yeah, I guess like paparazzi's chase me now, and you're just like, yeah, fine. Or being in the band, you're just like, I guess I go on Top of the Pops quite a lot, that stuff like that, and then even living in Philadelphia for that long, it's just like I guess I'm someone who just lives in Philadelphia now, or like, even what I do now, songwriting, I'm just like, yeah, I guess I just like write songs for Liam Payne now. Do you know what I mean? It's so weird how. And the same with bad stuff. You're just like, yeah, I guess my legs are broken now. And it's just really weird how I think once you've spent like a couple of days in whatever the new situation is, your body and your mind, you just manage to accept so much stuff. I think it's fucking amazing.
Yeah. You seem quite philosophical at the time about all the celebrity stuff after Big Brother. I mean, I was watching interview you did with Jonathan Ross, and you were kind of like, you weren't bothered about it. You're like, oh, we were like next week's chip paper kind of thing. Is that kind of the attitude you had?
Yeah, I knew I didn't like. I don't want to be like a full-time celeb. It's just not what I couldn't do that. You know, you have to be like a Peter Andre or something if you want to do that. You have to like homogenize yourself, or like you have to just like put Vaseline on the lens of everything you do. And you know, I also have quite an offensive sense of humor, and like I'm just not that guy at all. So, but when the opportunity was there, I was just like, this will be like quite funny, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was quite funny for a little bit. It was also a fucking nightmare, honestly, but it was also brilliant. So
yeah. And
I always think just do the thing. Like if there's a thing, just do it. Just don't bother saying no. You know, don't say no to stuff. Just embrace whatever life throws your way. Don't if it's like, do you want to do this, or do you want to just like stay at home? Then do the thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting, I know what you mean. Definitely, like, take the opportunity, kind of thing, and that's the only way you're going to lift your into something, I guess.
If there's like if it's like, you know, if there's a party that you might want to go to or you might not, just fucking go. if someone invites you on holiday, fucking go. Just do the thing. I really like have lived my life like that, and I've been so happy that I have, because you know, even now I'm like, I'm so used to saying yes to uncomfortable situations that, like, especially with work, it's like, oh, would you like to work with this incredibly stressful, really, you know, amazing person that's going to be super hard work, and you're probably massively underprepared. But I think I've just done the thing for my life for so long that it's like, I'm just like, yeah, well then I'll do it, and I'll just show up, and I'll probably be fine.
Yeah. And the kind of thing where you're going to be better for the experience.
Yeah, well, I think you need to make yourself uncomfortable in life as well. I think that's really important.
Yeah. All right, if we skip back to the music a bit, like I say with the first album, like a lot of the songs are about kind of rebelling against the mundane and consumerism. Is that something you'd experienced before the band kind of thing? Yeah,
I did. I definitely had a really shit job, a couple of shit jobs, and do you know, try to tell you what the absolute honest answer of that is?
Yeah, definitely.
Is I really like XTC, and they sung about it quite a lot.
Right.
And I really connected with that. So I think I connected with singing about the not accepting the life that is most available to you, right? The you know, making plans for Nigel. I think I connected with that as a lyrical, I did like a lyrical frame or a lyrical kind of conceit I just feel like that is something that, as in music, can really like gets my kind of blood pumping.
Yeah.
So I think it was like, rather than like, I hate the mundane, it was more just like, when people sing about this shit, it's like, actually, like, it's a really good medium by which to, because music's quite weirdo anyway. So it just all feels like, so I think, and you know, there's a bunch of like sort of post-punk bands that seem to sing about that kind of stuff, and it just that's the kind of punk that I like. I think it's like, you know, I think if I was saying this again to someone today, but I think if a lot of my friends are like diehard punks, like, you know, like bondage trousers and 16-hole DMs and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I could have been just like a kind of full-time punk guy as well. It's really like smash the system and all that stuff. It just, it might be that I just need a little, you know, I need a little bit of other stuff. You know, I also like Justin Bieber, for instance. Do you know what I mean? So it's, it doesn't. There's other things I have that slightly contradict that. You know, and I like will definitely have a McDonald's every now and again.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a McDonald's on King's Road, which used to be the Chelsea drugstore. It was called,
Right.
and it's in a Rolling Stones song. It's in a Kinks song, and it's also the set where they filmed the record store scenes of A Clockwork Orange.
Right.
And now it's a McDonald's. So I've decided my first post-lockdown McDonald's is gonna be the one where they film Clockwork Orange, and it's in Rolling Stones song.
That's it, to be fair. Yeah.
And it's a beautiful building. It's like a really like crazy 60s kind of, lots of sort of circly bits to it. It's really cool.
Yes. Yeah, do you think with some of those early lyrics, like they're almost even more relevant now, like songs like Seaside, kind of get outside your house, get away from the screens kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just think they'll always be, yeah, I guess I sung about TV a lot, didn't I? And then I went on TV. That was a bit. Whoops. No, I just think that kind of shit's always going to be relevant. I think people are always going to want to gravitate towards just a sedentary lifestyle.
Mm.
And I mean, it's kind of what I was saying. Do the thing. I guess that's what I was saying on the first record. It's just like,
yeah,
like, you know, leave your house, jump, fucking swim in the sea, fucking like climb a mountain, like go and pick some blackberries, just fucking do something that's not just like sitting in your house and ordering Deliveroo.
yeah. I suppose a lot of people have been doing that over lockdown as well, won't they?
Yeah,
actually getting out.
Yeah, you know, there's a big world outside, and it's like it's such a shame to not go and have a look at it.
Yeah. Then yeah, like you say, working with Stephen Street, we've like discussed quite a few producers on the podcast, but we haven't really talked about him. But he was quite prevalent at that point, obviously, with bands in the 90s and stuff. What's it like working with him?
Really, I mean, he's just such a legendary guy. He would like play us all the songs from Viva Hate because he wrote them and played guitar on them.
Oh, right.
So that was amazing. I guess he might have written the song The Ordinary Boys, potentially. I'm not sure if that's true. But he also did this band, The Promise Ring, who I really like, and that was the reason we worked with him. And also he was kind of having a bit of a lull at that point. It was before Kaiser Chiefs, I think, before he did Valerie.
Right.
He did Valerie? I think that's right. You know, I mean, I haven't really got any other, other than people I work with now. I haven't got any other people to compare him to, except for Chenzo Townsend, who was the engineer on those records, on our records, who is now, you know, a hugely successful producer.
Okay.
Then he was, you know, he's like, I guess also at the time, it's funny because now I'm so obsessed with production now because I've been studying it so much. But at the time, I was just like, almost didn't really give a fuck. I was just like, what, do I sing into the microphone and the music like goes on the CD, right? And beyond that, I didn't really care what else happened.
Yeah. I suppose when you're with someone like that as well, you can kind of trust them to do a good job up to a point.
Of course. And then, you know, we were recording it in Barnes in this fucking mental studio, which is now a cinema.
Right.
And I actually went there recently because there's a Mark Bolan statue near there where he died in Barnes. So I went to kind of go and pay my respects. I just kind of wanted a little drive out of from where I live. And so I drove down and sort of had a little look at the Mark Bolan thing, and then went over to see what the studio was like now. And it's like this super bougie like cinema with a, you know, kind of Michelin restaurant underneath it and stuff. It's really weird seeing it.
Yeah.
Knowing that there was this giant, I think Jimi Hendrix had recorded there, and when we recorded our first album, The Cure were doing. Could it have been Blood Flowers? No, it can't have been Blood Flowers. What would it have been? What was Blood Flowers? 2001 or something? No, maybe it was. No, that's 2003. What was the record? Anyway, so The Cure were recording there at the time. Who were obviously mega. So, and they would like go. We would have lunch with them, and they were like, "Yeah, you're quite loud, aren't you guys? It's funny. You know, the heavy, I do think Disintegration is like probably the heaviest album in the world. It's just like heavy in a kind of different way, but it's fucking, it's almost like, it's like exhausting, that record. If you listen to it the whole way through, it's like, like when I'm feeling when I'm having a bit of a bad time, I do like to kind of make it a little bit worse by just putting my headphones on and going through the whole of Disintegration really loud. Absolutely experience that.
Yeah, there is something about that, and if you're having a bad time, you want to listen to even more depressing music.
Yeah, of course. I've always done that. I love depressing music. It's fucking brilliant.
I mean, I guess something else we haven't talked about on the podcast really is like how the pressure changes, like going into a second album. And you guys obviously released 3 albums in 3 years. Like, how did things change for you in terms of pressure from the record company, or did you just kind of take it in your stride?
The record company didn't pressure us at all, and they were really not involved in it. But I don't know. Honestly, you know, the same way that I said to Jonathan Ross about like chip paper kind of thing. I always wanted to do the band. I never wanted to do the band for a long time. I just don't want to be like. I don't like that. I don't want to be. I don't want that life for myself. It's just not what. It's too constricting to like. Do you know, it's like. It is such a commitment to being in a band for your whole life, and then, you know, putting out album after album. So I just thought, you know, I guess we just thought, fuck it, let's. I also our guitarist at the time, he kind of took the reins a little bit on the second album, and then I kind of took the reins on the third album, I guess. So, but yeah, in terms of the pressure, I've never really felt any. I don't really care about what anyone else thinks of it that much. So I never really felt pressure. You know, obviously I hoped that the people who like the band would really enjoy it, and understand it. You know, like, it's really weird how when you make a record, you are speaking to like you're speaking to people that will either get what you're saying or not. So that's just a weird dynamic. But in terms of pressure, I don't think I ever really felt any.
Yeah, so kind of like your songwriting process just stayed the same to the first, like through all 3 albums kind of thing.
No, the process completely changed.
Right.
It was like, but I think, you know, it's like, I think we didn't really know what we were doing. I think even more, like, do you ever have that feeling where you're just like, oh, adults are basically just like children pretending to be adults?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then there's a bit in this book when they're in the army, and there's like, that it's just people, he says it's just like people playing army, like people like pretending to be army men and stuff. And I think it's the same. It's like all of the people behind the scenes in music, everyone's just fucking making up as they go along. No one really knows what they're doing. Most of it is luck. Like, music's fucking weird and subjective and magical and nonsensical and like immeasurable, and do you know what I mean? So it's like, so I think, I think if everyone is just a child pretending to be an adult, well, I think we were just like, just like pretending to like understand what really the job was and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, like you've talked about, you kind of drifted into a scene you weren't really keen on, but did you feel part of a community of bands back in the day? Because obviously a lot of good bands in the country at the time. Yeah, so you sort of sent me this question. I was trying to think, and I actually thought Moa was the only one I could really think of that I really liked, but I definitely have never, you know, I didn't feel part of anything. They tried to do one with us in the Dead 60s. It was like, I can't remember what they called it. I think they might have called it like something with chav in it, which is slightly disappointing. Right. Chav, ska, pop, punk, or some bullshit. But no, we never felt like, I honestly was, other than the Cribs, who are obviously fucking brilliant and amazing, and I love them. Yeah. And the Kaiser Chiefs, they're the only bands I've ever been friends with. Okay.
I don't know why. I think when you're really young, you just sort of see all other bands as the enemy. Not
right. Okay.
But like, so yeah, and I don't know. I never particularly. It wasn't music that I really liked, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just not what. It's just never really been what I listened to, which I know is really might be a weird thing to hear, but like, yeah, I liked quite a lot of like American. Like, I think, like, I guess there's some good Death Cab albums came out at that sort of time, 2004 or 5. But yeah, none of the bands that were kind of our peers, I really listened to at all. Oh, do you know who I liked? The Stills were really good. They're a bit.
Yeah.
That record's amazing. That was my record. I couldn't go to sleep without listening to the first 4 songs on that album.
Yeah.
I saw them touring with the Shins, and like, you know, back in the day.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
2002 or something.
I remember my housemate was really into the Stills. So I used to always play him on his bass guitar, like "Love and Death." Was it one of the songs?
Yeah, oh my god, so good.
Yeah, really good.
Logic Will Break Your Heart.
Yeah,
really, really fucking good. Great lyrics. I wonder if they're going. I wonder if they're still a band.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually.
But yeah, there was. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't really. We didn't really. We were like, just like very much our own little unit. And we just kind of, you know, which is different. We've done, you know, we did an album in 2015 as well, just for the fun of it. And it was so different that time, where we were desperately trying to be really like hang out with everyone. Like, I remember we were playing some festival, and Razorlight were there, and I was like, so, oh cool, let's go and make friends with Razorlight. They just were so not up for hanging out. I was really surprised. Yeah, I was just like, all right, lads. Just absolutely like, and then shut the door. But then we at that festival, I made really good friends with Johnny Menswear, which Menswear, that record's actually really fucking interesting. It's I think people sort of, it's a bit of a kind of joke one, but it's actually like it's a pretty good record, honestly. I like, I do, and he was such a nice guy. But I don't know, it's different time. Like, it used to be kind of cool to be like a dickhead and rude then, but now it's just, that's not where people are at, I think now. Now it's nice to be like super over friendly and hug everyone, which I'm much more comfortable with that. That suits me much better.
Yeah. I was obviously looking through different articles and stuff from back in the day. There's just one I wanted to ask you about that was about Oasis. I don't know, it's like an NME article, and it says Oasis scrap sessions intended for the follow-up to Heathen Chemistry, which included a period recording with the Ordinary Boys. Does that make any sense?
No, we like hung out with them a bit.
Oh, okay.
He gave our guitarist a guitar, Noel did.
Right.
No, I don't know. I don't know what that. I can't remember. I don't have any memory of that. But
fair enough.
Yeah, that would be cool though. I'd like to follow that up.
And then, yeah, obviously, like in 2004, I watched your Glastonbury YouTube video recently when you played.
Oh yeah, with Bill Jupiter.
Yeah. I mean, and like, you're talking about the big crowd and stuff. Was that pretty amazing at the time, or were you just taking it in your stride at that point?
I can't remember it. I have no memory of it.
All right, fair play.
Isn't that weird how that happens? So there's only a few things. I'm like, have a really shit memory. I remember a few Japan things because I remember playing in front of 40,000 people. Also, you're so scared when you're doing a gig, right? Do you not think the fear kind of, you don't really appreciate it till afterwards?
Yeah.
I get really nervous.
Yeah, you can only enjoy it after the event kind of thing.
After the event, I think, yeah, that was fun actually. But at the time, I'm just thinking like, what the fuck is this? I'm singing the first verse going like, what are the lyrics for the second verse? I literally have no idea. And then I'm there kind of do it like singing and like going like, honestly, like, I think I'm just going to have to like just sing, make up new words and then, you know, then the second verse comes and the lyrics just like flop out really naturally. So it's like, you know, there's a lesson there of just like, it's so much better to just be confident that you're going to be able to rise to the occasion of something rather than just stressing about whether you will.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. No, No, I don't really remember Glastonbury. I can't really. I like. Yeah, it's a fucking long time ago now.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of. I've had many different lives since then, which is really weird. Like I've lived in all different places. I've just had different. So I sort of feel like if I watch the videos, I'm just like, oh, who's that guy? Oh yeah, I guess it's me. It's really weird.
And another thing I've not really asked anyone yet is people talk about like some of the hit songs are usually the ones that get written the fastest. So obviously I'm linking that with Boys Will Be Boys. Is that something you found? And is that something you found as a songwriter in general or not really?
Yeah, I don't remember with Boys Will Be Boys. Oh yeah, I guess we wrote that the day we recorded it.
Oh, right.
And yeah, definitely in my working now, I always, if something's taking too long, I'll just be like, look, we're going to leave this song. It's obviously shit. I think for the type of I think for pop music, it needs to have it really benefits from being something that it feels like it's led by instinct rather than kind of head scratching and like trying to work it out. I think Nick Hodgson, who from the Kaiser Chief, who's a songwriter now, he's very much taught me about just let some bullshit come out of your mouth and then and then try and like just put a little bit of paint on it and dust it off a little bit and see if you can make that a song, rather than thinking of a thing and then trying to create it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely know what you mean, yeah. I remember Kings of Leon saying that about Sex on Fire. That was really? Just like you say, it was just like nonsense lyrics they came up with while they were just coming up, starting out with the song. And then they were just like, well, can't think of anything better that fit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
I always think that sounds a bit like an STD.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a nice image, is it?
No. My dick's on fire.
So yeah, we've touched on Big Brother, Preston, but obviously I wanted to ask you a few more questions about it. And in that same Jonathan Ross interview, you talked about the fact your bandmates were pretty against you going in there. And I think one of them said, when you come out, I'm going to say, I told you so. But that kind of changed after you came out.
Yeah, the band just kind of became something else after that. So, and everyone was kind of okay with that. We just sort of, I think everyone in the band was kind of wondering how long we could make this thing last. So I did, and I actually think it sort of bought me a little bit more mileage in terms of it bought me some more kind of enthusiasm for it. Not that I wasn't enthusiastic, but it's like, I just feel like there's tons of shit I want to do other than just like go and sit in a van for my life.
Yeah.
So I think I was always sort of aware of that.
Yeah, so kind of introduce you to a different audience a little bit.
Yeah, and just made the band seems like a different thing.
Yeah.
It was like, it's the equivalent of like, buying some new underwear to spice up your love life with your band. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
And I guess it was kind of testament to the attention that bands were getting at the time, the likes of you and Maggot going in. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, it was such a weird time. Like I felt like at that time, like any band could get signed. All you had to do was say you were in a band, and they would give you $100,000. I mean, if I'm really honest, I think it was quite a shit time for music, honestly.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, I know that your whole podcast is like about how good that time of music was, but if you, oh, not shit. It just I didn't really. It was like, it's not like it was, 1976 in New York.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Who are the really big ones from this time? Franz Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Cribs. Cribs. I mean, the Cribs are fucking amazing, but they could have come out in 1976.
Yeah, I mean, but they came on the podcast and they said that that this scene got oversubscribed really quickly.
Yeah, and I think there were a lot of bands that were just like really shitty versions of the few good ones.
Yeah.
I'm not putting myself in the category of the good ones whatsoever. I'm not claiming that. I'm just saying that, I think it was super crowded. It kind of had a bit of a sort of rock and roll kind of stink, like that kind of just stinks to me, that kind of thing. Like leather jacket kind of thing that just like, it didn't feel very progressive.
Yeah.
There was like one female in the whole scene. It just didn't feel it just felt a little bit like
a big bandwagon type thing.
Yeah, exactly. It really did. And I think now, I think I much prefer how music is now, where there's just like, it's just more fucking weird shit. You have like Charlie XCX now, and just mad music's really bit, and like there's like one band that sounds like there aren't like you have like Charlie XCX, you don't really have anyone else who sounds like her. Do you know what I mean? And then you have like, I mean, what bands like, or like Lil Peep is just like fucking absolute batshit music, and it's huge. Whereas before you just had like sad white men with guitars, and I just like, I'm not sure if that is giving that much to the world, personally.
Something else the Crib said is kind of like genres are just blending into each other now, and it's not really defined scenes anymore.
Yeah, I think that's really, especially with the way guitars are. The guitars in pop music is like things that would have been, and something that would have been an indie record. People complain that there's no guitar bands anymore, but that's because that as an idea is something different now, because laptops exist, and even guitars, you're more likely to, if you're doing something on your own, you're more likely to put trap drums, because that's just the easiest thing to do under your singing and under your guitar. So I think the whole idea of like an indie bands is just completely redundant now, which I think is fine. I think music's in a really healthy place now. I basically listen to like music from the 80s and music from right now, and not much in between, honestly.
So do you think it's easier for people starting out now, or harder to kind of get a foot on the ladder?
It's just different. I think it's just so different. I think it's more of a meritocracy now. And I think it's more of a meritocracy in terms of ideas, which I think is, I think in order to stand out now, you don't have to be the one that sounds the most like the Strokes, which was what it was back then.
Yeah.
You have to be the one that's just thought of some fucking mad shit that no one else is doing. And when people are skimming through Spotify, it just jumps out of the earphones, And that's cooler, I think.
But I was like, in terms of Spotify and things, like I was listening to Six Music recently, and singer from Gomez was like launching an appeal for a different model for Spotify, where it'd be pays per play, because he says the money doesn't filter down to smaller artists. Do you think that's a problem, or not really?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's. I mean, I don't really know about for smaller artists. I like. I haven't really been that for a while.
Yeah, true.
My writing, I'm not really. That's not really my. In fact, maybe but yeah. I mean, I'm sure that if he's saying that, then that must be a thing. But
yeah,
So he's saying that you have to pay every time you listen to a song.
No, he's saying, because apparently the model at the minute is like, it's based on the biggest percentage going to the biggest acts, so the money doesn't filter down. Where he's saying really the money should filter through on a pay per play basis. So like,
yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't know why they would do that.
No, apparently the record labels are not likely to agree because they're kind of got a monopoly on it already or something.
Yeah, I mean, but record labels have just been scumbags since they were first day they were invented. So I don't know why anyone's expecting them to be nice now.
Yeah, true. Just skipping back to Big Brother, just a couple of questions I wanted to ask about that, because obviously during this whole lockdown, a big thing has been The Last Dance with Chicago Bulls.
Yeah,
and obviously you spent 3 weeks with Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, I started on him.
Right.
Do you remember? I was like going, "Don't you fucking tell me to shut up." Someone showed me that the other day, which is quite a weird thing that I don't know quite why I thought that was going.
Yeah, I watched the thing. They put the highlights on, didn't they, of your season or your series? Yeah. I watched that, but yeah, I guess. I mean, I remember watching it at the time, not really being aware of much about Dennis Rodman, but kind of. No, I suppose watching The Last Dance, you get an idea of how big they were.
Yeah. Why would he do fucking Big Brother?
I know, yeah.
Really weird. Well, I guess I did it, but.
And I mean, there's a bit where you were just sat down, where you all had to do your talents and stuff, and it's just a shot of you when Barrymore's doing his Hitler impression. You're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I didn't think he really understood that you're not really allowed to do stuff like that.
Yeah. Like now that you'd have no chance, would you?
No. Well, I think when we were young, we were like, I know, like we did like anti-fascist action and all that stuff. We were like, you know, woke before it was called woke.
Right.
So that's like Antifa now, which maybe is a slightly different prospect. But yeah, I remember. I can sort of remember little moments like that. It is really weird because it's a real feeling about being in there. It's a real, I can remember the feeling of it.
What was it like?
I don't know. I like it's like, you know, like I don't know. It's just a particular feeling. It's so weird. I honestly can't vocalize it, but it's just like that kind of. I guess there's a weird like constant, like quite low level, just like frantic excitement at the whole time. Yeah, which is just a really weird thing to put your body through for like 2 weeks, or whatever, 3 weeks. I can't remember how it was. I don't know what it was. No, I don't know. It's just it's a feeling that I've never felt replicated. Like the feeling of just being in there. I've never been able to replicate or you know. It was. I had a really good time. It was really good. I haven't laughed so much. Like really laughed. Pete Burns was so funny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I remember one. I can't remember his quote now, but on the highlight show, he said something that was quite relevant to today. I can't remember exactly what it was.
He told me that Jimmy Savile was a necrophiliac.
Right.
In there, and I was like, yeah, of course he fucking is. But he was, and he told me that he used to make rings out of dead people's glass eyes and wear them. That he'd fucked corpses, and I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound very. Anyway, apparently that is something that he would do.
Jesus,
I mean, it turns out that it was. So he knew all that. You know, he used to hang out with Michael Ali, you know, from Party Monster. Have you seen the documentary Party Monster?
No.
Club Kids and stuff.
Is that on Netflix?
No, I had to find it. It's like if you just type in like Party Monster documentary, watch illegally now or whatever it is.
Right, yeah,
it's kind of quite easy to find, and it's like documentary about this guy so he was kind of friends with him, but he's a guy who he started these club nights, and then and they were these like real weird, like they would like do fancy dress, they were quite horror themed and stuff. Really cool. It's like a really cool scene, but very like druggy and very like fucked up. And he ended up like killing his drug dealer and chopping him up and stuff. It's a mad documentary, and there's a film about it with Macaulay Culkin. Marilyn Manson's in it, and the film is excellent as well.
Oh, cool! I'll watch that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, and just like one last one on it. Like you described, the experience as like going through a war with someone, and that's how you formed that intense bonds with people. Was that kind of the feeling afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I guess without being offensive to people who've gone through actual things and had PTSD, but I think you do have a bit of a kind of PTSD thing afterwards, because it's just quite intense mentally to go through. So I just, you know, same with Pete Burns. Like I would see him every now and again and stuff afterwards, and have I had a lot of love for that guy. I think he was a really real good one. That guy. And then obviously, like I mean, I think what probably happened is I just accidentally misunderstood what that feeling was and thought it was I had to marry this woman. So I'm sure that's what it was in retrospect.
Yeah, because I guess 3 weeks in there must be equivalent to what, like a year on the outside or something.
Yeah, and then also like knowing that you're feeling like there's something, and then also we came out and everyone was just like, "Oh my god, you two, how you are mate?" And like also I had a really shitty manager who just fucking like would do bullshit stuff. Like when I came out, he'd signed some contract for me to be topless on the front cover of the Mirror. I was so uncomfortable with it. Honestly, like.
What did that happen?
I was saying I really don't want to fucking do this. I feel incredibly uncomfortable. I really don't want to take my clothes off. And he was like, "Oh, you've signed this thing. You have to do it." Like that's kind of that's like, isn't that like? I don't know quite what that is, but it feels like.
Yeah, it's like your rights being taken away a little bit there.
Yeah, it's definitely not a cool thing to do to like a 21-year-old kid or whatever it was.
Yeah. And then you went back in 2010. Is that right? Was that a bit of a different experience?
Yeah, that was just. I mean, it was also, I can't really remember that one as well, but, you know, I get that was a little bit of like trying to chase the same high and maybe not really getting it, but
okay.
Fun.
Yeah.
And also, again, it was just like they asked me and I was like, all right, well then, yes, I will. That's it.
And something else, obviously, you must get asked about all the time, but I just wanted to ask you about the Never Mind the Buzzcocks thing, because I was looking on your Wikipedia, and it says that you like reflect on it, you kind of regretted it, and he said something that I'm struggling to think why I'd have acted so weird. Is that true, or is that Wikipedia?
No, I never said that.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, I don't know why everyone like people seem like to spend quite a lot of time worrying about that, whereas I don't know. I just felt like the man was being horrible about my wife who was sitting in the audience. And what the fuck else am I going to do? I don't think you'd be allowed to do that now. I think he would be. I think that's a fucking awful thing to you know, make fun of someone's book, which was for children, essentially.
Okay, yeah.
In front of. You know, it was what it was making fun of someone from a social class that you consider lower to your own, and actually you just don't really understand that. So just the whole thing was just was cruel. So I was just like, nah, I'm out.
Yeah,
I don't regret it at all.
Yeah, fair play. And then at least the guy that replaced you got his 15 minutes of fame anyway. So.
Yeah, did someone cut the audience or something?
Yeah, I think they put him in your place and he ended up staying on the show, so he had a good time anyway. But yeah, and then moving on, you say you moved to Philadelphia for 3 years. Was that kind of valuable in terms of getting headspace and everything?
Yeah, it was just a really nice time. It's a really nice city, and it was really enjoyable. I mean, honestly, I think what was probably the best time of my life, and really formative years for me. I think like somehow I just like really kind of. It's not everyone who gets a chance to like take a big amount of time off to just really like hang out and just sort of find. It was a little bit like finding myself, kind of like, you know, what people do when they go traveling around India or whatever, but I just did it like, you know, record shopping and like doing karaoke and stuff instead.
Yeah.
So it was really good time. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I've only been to New York.
It's kind of like mini New York, but yeah, it's like New York, but the people are cooler.
Right. And then 2009, I was looking at some stuff where you kind of had an idea for a solo album, but you kind of tested the water with a single, Dress to Kill.
Yeah.
Is that what
And
happened?
then Cher actually ended up singing that song.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was quite mad. A few of those songs were I like ended up giving them to other people to do, which was like one of them was #1 for Ollie Murs as well, which was Heart Skips a Beat. That one was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just was like, you know, I kind of can't be arsed. It is a lot of just like, I know it's not good for your mental health to just like ask to have to just ask people like to what they think of you every day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like constantly putting
You're
yourself out there, kind of thing.
just like having to try and please everyone.
Yeah.
I just don't think. I think there are just other things that are way more important to me than like if I have a solo album or not.
Yeah. So have you enjoyed like writing songs for people more in a way than actually?
I really like it. I do actually really enjoy it. I feel really lucky to you know, I've got a really good team around me and stuff, and I've just been doing some really exciting stuff. And yeah, I get to write a new song every day, and it's like, you know, I feel like I'm getting better and better and better at it. Whereas I think when you're in a band, you're like, I've said this before, but you're like kind of managing the decline a little bit.
Mm.
So I just kind of like, I think life, you have to feel like you're improving yourself in life, or else you just get depressed.
Yeah. And what's the process for handing over a song? Like, say, with Ollie Murs, is it literally his team listen to it, or is there any like instruction from your point of view?
No, I just send them my version of it and say, "Oh, would this work for whoever?" And they'll say, or 99% of the time, they'll say, "No, thanks for sending." And then every now and again, they'll be like, "Yeah, we'll try them out on it tomorrow." So,
cool.
Yeah, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, and there must be big satisfaction when it gets to #1 and stuff.
Yeah, it's like absolutely amazing. But you also don't have to like do 10 photo shoots and make sure that you're like thin enough and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and also like I'm 38 now, so like I kind of need a career that you can age in. You know, you can, and also like I want to have a family and stuff, and you can't do that. You know, if you're in a band and you're on tour the whole time, I just think you know, I don't think you. I think it makes having a family and having a normal life like much more difficult. And I think, you know, I don't have a normal life at all, but I'm not on tour for 6 months of the year. So that's, at least I can, you know, I can have the same friends, and I can, you know, just.
Yeah, it's like consistent.
Go to cinema and shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, just do nice things. Well, I can't go to cinema now, but on the 31st, I can go to cinema because they're reopening actually.
All right. Bill and Ted 2.
Yeah, I don't know they're opening, but there was going to be that new Christopher Nolan, but now apparently that's forever. That's delayed for until indefinitely.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm going to look it up. I don't quite know what.
Yeah,
there is. I sort of would go and see anything in the cinema at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a cinema.
Sure. Went to the Trafford Centre yesterday. I thought the cinema was opening there, but I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe this is just my little weird. There's like a little weirdo art house.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah. So, what are your goals now? You've mentioned producing. Is kind of that the next goal? Kind of become a good producer, kind of thing.
Yeah, just try and get a few ones away. I don't know. The goal is always just to try and be like super rich. That's kind of it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's like I want to. You know, I don't know. I want a Grammy. That's what I want.
Yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah. Okay, some of the standard questions then. Just like, is there anything you would do differently from the early days, or whenever in your career, kind of thing?
I mean, no. I'm pretty happy with my journey, I think.
Yeah, you kind of need to go through it to be where you are now, kind of thing.
There's certain outfits I might not have worn if I could do that. I went through a really weird phase of like wearing these weird Reebok tracksuits, which like I don't know. So maybe some, definitely some outfits. I really hate the artwork to the second and third record. But I do like the artwork to the first record, even though everyone else seems to hate it. But yeah, I would maybe change the artwork.
Well, what happened with that then? Who picked it at the time?
Well, we wanted like for Brassbound, we wanted like one of those old reggae like sleeves, which like the Trojan type thing.
Right.
But they just like gave it to their art team, and like we went back and forward a million times. They just made it shit every time, so we just like, oh, it's fine. And then with the third record, I don't know. I was just on a bit of a mad, like I didn't really know what I was doing for the third record. I was going a bit avant-garde, honestly. But
when you got back together in 2015, like how was that? You mentioned it briefly, but how was that different? Was it a bit more?
Yeah, that was really fun because that was I was just like, so I'd fallen out with the original drummer Chuck really badly, and then I wanted to reconnect with him, so I just said, "Fuck it, should we just do an album and then we'd go on tour?" And we did, and it was just like an amazing time. We're just hanging out, and I honestly think that's our best record, and I wonder if you just think that about your most recent record, but I really think that's a good record. And yeah, it was really super fun. I mean, maybe I'll do another record. I don't really know. I quite like it just being a thing I can just like pick up and play with every now and again.
Yeah. How big was the tour you did then?
Like it was like 30 days doing 30 gigs. It was brutal. I regretted it actually after about 5 days. But it was really fun. I drank too many beers. I had to give up drinking after that for a bit.
Right. But, is that something you wouldn't do again then, touring, or I don't know? I
mean, I would. Like I probably will at some point. I don't really know. I don't know. I just feel like they're I think if we did do something, people do kind of show up, which is nice. So it's like there's still people I haven't managed to alienate yet. So somehow, I like the little tours. Maybe I'd do like a 6 tour like UK thing or something like that.
Yeah, did you get any flack? Like you said, you've changed styles and alienated your fan base. Do you get much criticism or feedback from that?
No, I don't think anyone really I mean, people are either just like what and just walk away probably, or they just think it's it's like they just kind of get on board with it.
Yeah.
So no, I've never really had that, or I've never seen it.
And is there any particular high points from the early days of Ordinary Boys?
Yeah, maybe like a few early TV shows. I can't remember what it was called. We did some TV show where it was like for Channel 4, and they played the whole gig on Channel 4 at like 10 o'clock.
All right.
Which was just like quite a weird thing to have done. It was like us, and I think we played with Amen. Do you remember that band, Amen?
I'm not sure. So
that was really good. Yeah, like lots of bits of TV, like Blue Peter we did Jules Holland, and Morrissey was on it, like 5 foot away from me. And that was, and then that evening we ended up going on tour we were like off on tour with Morrissey that after Jules Holland. So I just guess all that felt a bit like, that was a real dream.
Yeah. Did he kind of end up having a good relationship with him?
Yeah, kind of. I remember saying like, "Hello, I'm Preston." He was like, "Yes, I know who you are." Which I thought was quite cool. So that was all quite amazing. Terry Hall sang on stage with us. That was really good. Suggs came on stage with us at Brixton Academy and sang My Girl.
Yeah, because did one of the specials... you covered the specials on your first album?
Yeah. I really like the specials. I think their new album's really cool.
Oh, really? I've not listened to that.
Yeah, I really recommend it. It's like, it's just cool. It's just a cool record. Like I think they did the right thing of making it. It's like really political in a really smart way.
I guess, yeah. Try and finish on a funny story. And like we usually ask people for a Gallagher Brothers story just because they were kicking about back then and slagging a lot of bands off and stuff. But do you have a funny story to finish on?
I mean, I don't really have a particularly one about. I'm particularly on Oasis one, although I can just a funny moment with Oasis was when we were playing. Like, I don't know if it was Fuji Rock or Summer Sonic or one of the big festivals in Japan, and I remember them being completely baffled by Rankin Roger, who was like, so we so we on Boys With Boys, Rankin Rogers' son, who's Rankin Jr., who's like one of my best friends. And there's actually a song that I did because Rankin Roger died recently, like really suddenly of cancer, and he was like a friend. I really liked him. Actually, we were going to release a song as the Ordinary Boys with Rankin Jr., and there's actually a video of it on my Instagram from before Corona, but then we kind of like Corona just sort of fucked it all up. But I can remember the Oasis lads just being so confused by us all being backstage and Rankin Roger rollerblading around the backstage. He was so he had all these rollerblades and full pads as well. And then he would wear these weird like black like leather outfits with loads of zips on. And then, like this mad, he looked like a kind of like a black wizard from the Matrix or something. He had these like his dreads kind of like trailing behind him as he's kind of zoomed past on his rollerblades. So I do remember that being like a very funny Liam and Noel moment then. But they were always really nice to us. They really liked Ordinary Boys. They said some lovely things about us.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah,
that's quite it, Preston, as well. When I saw your clip on First Dates, where does that rank into? Were you nervous about that at all? Because obviously anyone of mine that's gone on that would be shitting themselves, but I guess it's walking the park for you.
Yeah, I was really... that one was one where I maybe didn't enjoy it that much.
Okay.
I got so shit-faced for the end bit, but I think they did me a favour by... like, I was really drunk my sorrows away after the girl turned out to be a dud. I mean, she was no good, right? They definitely put me with one that was like not good on purpose, I think.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just being precious.
That's probably it, Preston. Yeah.
All right, perfect. I enjoyed that. That was kind of needed that.
Oh, nice one, man.
Yeah, great.
Well, how's the weather?